Welcome back to The Price. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. By the way, if you haven't seen the new and improved USDailyReview.com, I do want to say shame on you. You need to check it out. It's just incredible what's going on there. USDailyReview.com and, of course, PriceOfBusiness.com both have enjoyed major facelifts and just look awesome. Make sure you check them out today. We want to get straight to our next guest, but before I do that, I do want to mention today's program brought to you in part by Intrepid.com. I got here on the program Joellyn Sargent. She's with a company called Claravon, Claravon, Claravon.com. We're going to talk a little bit about an identity crisis that mid-market sized companies tend to face. Mid-market, we've got your small business in America, which almost has kind of a romantic feel about them. And so we tend to know a lot about about the small-sized businesses, thanks to like Inc. magazine. And then, of course, we know about the enterprise-level companies with Fortune 500, and Fortune magazine. And not as much on the mid-market. And I wanted to bring Joey on to talk about it. But before we do that, Joey, real quickly, kind of give us a very short elevator speech.
Well, sure, and thanks for having me. I actually work with businesses as a growth strategy and help them from the very early stage startups up to much larger businesses accelerate their growth and make sure that they maintain a focus on their priorities and their sense of purpose.
Is that a problem with mid-market companies, that they try to act like something they're not?
Absolutely, and it's not so much that they act like something that they're not, but they lose sight of who they were when they started.
Okay, very good. Kind of give me a sense of what that, do they have an identity crisis? Do you think mid-market companies in general have that problem?
Well, I think to a degree, but I think more specifically they have an issue with visibility. What happens is that when they're very new, they're really focused on getting more customers and being out there and having everybody see them. But I think the bigger a company gets, the more they tend to turn in on themselves and become internally focused. And then that can, in turn, hurt their visibility. Okay.
By the way, again, the website, Claravon, Claravon.com. Tell us about the name.
It's actually a mashup of clarity, vision, and insight. Combined all those words to come up with Claravon.
Very cool. Very clever. How old is your company?
It's 5 years. It actually started out as Brand Sprout, and I had my own identity crisis and had to rebrand the business, so I ended up as Claravon to reflect the broader suite of services that I offer for clients today.
What's the size range of the companies that you currently work with as a consultant, and what is your sweet spot in that size range?
As I mentioned, anywhere from very early stage startups. Sometimes I get engaged with an entrepreneur when they're just starting out, all the way up to $250 million or so. And my real sweet spot is kind of in the center of that. Businesses that are growing quickly, have done well, but perhaps are looking at a plateau and starting to get a little bit concerned about what are we going to do next to sustain the growth and to stay relevant in the market.
So somewhere in the mid-market would be your sweet spot.
Absolutely.
Sweet spot. On maybe on the low to middle end.
Well, I'd say low to mid. I don't do as much work with the really large companies, but if they're in the mid-market and they want to sustain their growth, then that's a great spot for me.
What would you say is the biggest challenge facing mid-market companies today?
I think it's staying relevant and staying focused, because they tend to, the bigger you get, the tendency to be more conservative comes in. There seems to be more risk and more fear for making investments that might not pay off in the short term. So I think really losing that agility and becoming less nimble as the company gets bigger is really a risk.
Are there particular verticals that you like to operate in?
No, actually, I like to work across verticals, because I find, surprisingly, a lot of people think, oh, well, nobody knows our industry like we do. But it can be very helpful to have perspectives come in from other industries and help kind of open up the mindset to say, these are things that maybe you haven't thought about trying that have worked really well over here, and they can potentially really catapult a business to the next level.
Joellyn Sargent, she's been our guest. She's with a company called Claravon. That's Claravon.com. Seems very innovative. Learn more about them. And thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter, and you're listening to The Price of Business.